Talk to us about these phones. I mean, at about $1,000, that's the price point, right?
For the low end one, for the little clamshell one.
The
bigger one's $1,800.
It's kind of weird, right? Because it's like we're going back to the future. Clamshells, except now the screen goes over the hinge, right?
Yeah. Well, there's an outer screen, and actually it creates some nice usage models, like taking selfies. That's actually been one of the main pitches of these things, where you're shooting your Instagram Reels or whatever it is. It's basically a built-in tripod because it kind of props up like a laptop does, right? And you can put it far away. You don't need to do the whole arm reaching out thing, and you can just leave it on the shelf there.
Yeah. It's only a small part of the overall market, about 1% right now, right?
Yeah. Last year, only 1.2% of total smartphones. It came in at about 14 million units, so that's out of a 1.2 billion unit market, total market. So it's still relatively small. And like you said, price is one of the biggest issues, right? You look at that big one that they've got at $1,800 US. That's not a mainstream price point, and there's still a lot of question marks around software usability, hardware reliability, a lot of issues around the screen and the hinge and that kind of thing. Now, they've addressed this, right? As Sherry mentioned, they've made progress over the past 5 years where they've improved it, and what we saw last night was an even thinner product, which is nice. An improved hinge. Yeah. So there's progress. It's good progress being made, but as you pointed out, small part of the market, only 1.2%.
Okay, Sherry, come in on this.
Yeah, and I just pointed out in my report that Samsung does lead in the global smartphone market, at least when it comes to the market share. But Apple is a leader when it comes to the premium line. In fact, it has 75%. We're talking about phones priced at $600 or above. Would foldable phones, help Samsung share some of that? Do you think the adoption will actually grow? Because I've been actually seeing some reports about how foldables are becoming a little bit more popular in areas like China or some European countries.
Yeah, and we do expect foldables to grow. By 2027, we're looking at about 3 or 4% of the market, of the total market, compared to the 1.2. But again, we're talking about low single-digit percentages. Now, back to your question about how it helps them fight Apple and the high end and that sort of thing. The good thing is, I'm sure we'll hear this coming up in their earnings call later today, because we've heard it in previous quarters. Samsung's been rather proud about how this premium part of the smartphone market has done quite well for them. And despite how bad the memory business, say for instance, is for Samsung, the good thing is at least the premium part of the market is it's helping to drive some of their profits at least, or at least offset some of the damage caused by the memory side of the business. Now, we do also have to keep in mind, though, that foldables, honestly, are not a huge part of it. Even if they are the premium part of the market, it's actually more of the traditional candy bar S23 that really drives a lot of their profits, at least in that premium part. And obviously, that's the thing that's directly head-to-head against what Apple's got. So I look at it not so much about not so much from a perspective of them versus Apple in the premium space, because honestly, Apple still does dominate that. But what it does do is it helps Samsung from a financial perspective in terms of that profitability that we mentioned. And also, it's garnering mind share, right? Things like a foldable phone that Apple doesn't have yet. That's something that they, it at least gets people thinking. It's like, hey, I may be a dedicated iPhone user, but what is that thing that Samsung has that
this one folds,
exactly,
right? So, I mean, that's